The process of getting to the agreement was deliberate and slow and
a lot of argument.
Yeah, a lot of argument, but I think the important thing is by the time we put pen to paper and we signed on December 10 with the presence of 11 non-OPEC members and all of the OPEC countries, there was a recognition that we're all in one boat, the whole industry is one boat. Nobody wants oil prices to spike, Lyse.
But you have already said, sir, that you want to take your foot off the brake, as you put it, and let the market do its job, that you want to start increasing oil production again.
Well, not in a sense of uncontrolled oil production. Saudi Arabia has always produced in response to market demand. Even the last 2 years, our marketing strategy is to sell to long-term customers who request shipments for the next month to be scheduled. So every barrel of oil that leaves Saudi Arabian shores has been sent out at the request of a customer. So come July, and per our assumption, markets will be balanced. And if the agreement at that time is to seize the ceilings that have been lifted, Saudi Arabia will be responsive rather than constrained in meeting those customers' demands. So I wouldn't expect an all-out flood of the market in July. What we want to see, and the first quarter is always tough, but over the 6 months, what we want to see is a marked reduction in global inventories to bring it back within the 5-year range. And if we achieve that, we will allow the market then to do its thing, and the market will require that oil to keep economies going. We don't want oil prices to be volatile, so we certainly will be watching to make sure they don't go excessively high and create headwinds to global economies, certainly to emerging economies that don't have the capacity to afford excessive prices. But at the same time, we recognize that low oil prices have stopped investment from going into the oil sector. And I've said it repeatedly, I'll say it again, I am concerned about 3 years from now, 2020, whether we will have enough oil supply to meet the rising demand then and to offset the natural decline that is taking place around the world.
But many are warning that long-term demand is going down as well. That's going to depress oil prices.
I think those warnings are unwarranted in a sense that they're excessive. The idea that oil demand is going to grow at a slower pace than it did historically is true, and I acknowledge it fully, and everybody recognizes it. But I think it's way premature to start thinking of peak demand and overall global demand declining. The overwhelming majority, Lyse, of the global population is in developing economies in Asia and Africa and Latin America, and these billions of people are emerging from where they have no access to energy whatsoever.
But one of the 3 areas, I know that in those areas there's still a huge dependence on oil, but 3 of the main areas which are dependent on oil include transportation. And you must be one of the few people in the world not excited about electric cars and their future.
In the long term, we are excited about electric
But
cars.
it's troubling for the long-term future for oil?
No, the long-term future of oil will always be there. Oil will
Will it
always...
make a huge dent if it's a third of the
There
consumption of oil?
There needs to be a huge dent in the long term. Oil cannot support transportation of 9 billion people each having access to a car. The resource base in the ground doesn't support this. So we need other sources of transport. We need other sources of energy. This is recognized. But the transition is going to be in many decades rather than a few years, because that will stop investment in oil and gas. And then we will wake up one day with a severe shortage, oil prices will skyrocket, and then we will have economic consequences as well as energy security issues around the world. And that's dangerous.